Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ellensburg, Washington, USA. Home of Central Washington University. Thank you for joining us, either live or in replay. It's early. The local time is, 7:48 a.m. Pacific time, and today's date is Thursday, December 28th of 2024. This is our last show of 2024. Happy New Year, a little bit early. Looks like we're loud and clear. Thank you for those reports in the live chat. Here you are. 235, 240, 243 people just showing up. I'm grateful every time that you show up, whether it's in live form or replay. Can I say hi to a number of you this morning? Where are you viewing from today? Tri-Cities, Washington, USA, Zeeland, the Netherlands, Sacramento, California, Marion, Virginia, Media, Pennsylvania, Lawrence, Kansas, hello Kelly, Dayton, Washington, Cherokee, North Carolina, thank you Clint, Marysville, Washington, Sweden, Lincoln, California, Edgewater, Florida, oh boy, here we go, scrolling fast now, slowing it down, Lacey, Washington, Saber's down there in Baja. Hello, Saber. Hope you're enjoying your trip. You're on the road so often. It's really amazing. Fairwood, Washington. Lake Wenatchee. Plain by Lake Wenatchee. Good morning, Rachel. Stone Mountain, Georgia. Alberta. There's Alberta Gary. St. Petersburg, Florida. Glasgow, Scotland. Langford, UK. Riverton, Illinois. Colorado. Grandview, Washington. Eugene, Oregon, Bitterroot Valley, Montana, Port Townsend, hello, Tom. Tom, thank you for all the activity on Twitter. Really appreciate that. Linden, North, yeah, we got you. Richard, we've got you. I've already said hi to you. Tees Valley, West Virginia, Boulder Creek, California, Cornwall, UK, that's London Liz. Hello, London Liz. Don's in Los Angeles, California, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Portland, Battleground, Washington. Did I say it was Thursday? Okay. It's Saturday. Today's date is Saturday, December 28th, 2024. Yeah, trying to get myself woken up here a little bit. Excellent. Jeff and his wife Carol are in Port Townsend, Washington. Yes, they have pastries this morning. Buongiorno. Bald Hills. Hello, Glenn. Durango, California. No, Colorado. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Let me give you a shout out the window. It's foggy. It's not bitter cold. It's exactly 32 degrees Fahrenheit here in Ellensburg, and we're trying to light the skies, but it's dark and foggy, and my brain is dark and foggy, and I need to get myself plugged in here. I can feel that I'm lagging just a little bit. Come on, especially on a morning like this morning. I need to be razor sharp. I'll get there with your help. Red Leicester is in Armagh, Northern Ireland. Good afternoon to you. Mercer Island, Washington. Lindsay Malone says it looks like it could get sunny in Ellensburg. It might. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Milwaukee, Oregon. That's a suburb of Portland. Pontiac, Michigan. Tempe, Arizona. Pendleton, Oregon. Stefano is in Milano or Milan, Italy. Milan. Hello, Stefano. Yeah, we are deep into Cascades geology here in the Pacific Northwest, and yet we have so many of you from watching so far away, including overseas. That continues to be a pleasant surprise. Good morning, Jennifer. You've retracted your message, but I hope it was something like, good morning from Cascade, Idaho, in our A-frame. There's Spokane, Liberty Lake Glen Cruikshank. There's Regine from Belfont, Regine from foggy and dark France. Excellent. Tasmania, speaking of exotic locations. Phil is in Index, Washington. Yeah, Jennifer. You're in Cascade. Peter's in Princeton, New Jersey. Good morning, Julie. Current geology student here at CWU, Julie Wake. Hello, Julie. Nice of you to keep checking in live. I saw James was in here live the other day. That was kind of fun. Otherwise, most folks in the department don't watch these. They've got other things to do, I guess. Dale's in Edmonton, Alberta. Hollister, California. Okay, so I'm getting there. Let's see. We've got Circle Cam. We've got some things I want to do there. Docky's going to be working overtime today. There's the shelf cam. Nothing new there, I guess. And yeah, it's trying. It is trying. So, a couple minutes of chatting with you and just warming up my mouth and my brain, and then I will take my little walk. We have everyone home. And if you missed the last episode, all of our boys, or most of our boys, were with in-laws and other families of significant others. And so we're celebrating Christmas today. So when I get home, there'll be all sorts of festivities and prime rib dinner that Liz always prepares, and all of that. So it's not Thursday, right? It's Saturday. It's Saturday, but yet it's Christmas Day for us in our family, and we are extra thankful to be together at home after the drama of the last 6 weeks. So I sincerely hope that all is going well, and I feel like I want to say it one more time. It's a dark time. It's, for many of us, a very busy time with social obligations, and more than obligations. We enjoy visiting with people this time of year. And so for you to take the time to watch these during this busy time is extra meaningful to me. I say that almost every time, but I really do mean it. I want to make sure you know that I do these programs primarily for me, if you must know. It makes me feel good to put these programs together. And even if there were 3 people watching, or nobody watching, I would just put the stuff together for my own satisfaction. That would be plenty. I'd feel good just by doing that. But the fact that so many of you, 500 watching live and 10,000 that will watch the replay in the next 3 days, that's just icing on the cake. So you don't have to spend 4 hours a week, especially during this busy time. So thank you. That's your Christmas gift to me. I mean, it makes a little more sense in January, and I'm just speaking personally, when there's not a whole lot going on. There's college basketball to go to on campus and classes and everything else, but otherwise it's a rough month. There's not a whole lot going on. But this time of the year, there's so much going on that it's especially meaningful to see you here. Okay, I think I've got my head going, and I'm excited to share this very unusual episode, and I'll show you what I mean once we start in 5 minutes. So I'll give you a shot out the window, and I will do a little hot mic, and then I will take a little walk, and I will remember to have my keys in my pocket so I can get back in the building in 5 minutes. And we will begin this program, episode I, entitled Rollback Magmas. Thank you for watching. All right. You've got a plan. You like it. It's going to take you a while to get into it, but once you get into it, just enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it. You think it's going to work. You don't know, but you think it's going to work. Just lean into it. and have some fun. This is not the first time you've taught some of this stuff. So it's there. You just have to get it onto paper. Get it onto paper. Yes, keep it fast-paced, but don't be rushed. Take your time when you draw a couple of things and enjoy that. It's a departure from the last show. Emphasize that and then get rolling. Okay, take your walk. A pleasant good morning to you all, and welcome to this episode entitled Rollback Magmas. This is episode I. We're approaching halfway through the alphabet. We're approaching the end of 2024. Let me say Happy New Year to you a little bit early. This is the last episode of 2024, and the next time I see you will be the first Thursday of the new year, 2025, January 2nd at noon Pacific to be precise. Today is part one. So I have 2 Rollback Magma episodes planned. And so that's why I'm taking special care to say today is Saturday and the next episode will be Thursday. And I will have a little time between now and then to work up some details. And that's the first major point today. Today is a broad show. Today is working with papers. Today is drawing with Sharpie marking pens. Today is throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this issue involving Eocene magmas. If it hasn't dawned on you, we've been talking about the crazy Eocene, and we did a whole alphabet on the crazy Eocene 3 years ago, but I'm not recycling material. I'm continuing to push ahead to learn new things. Jeff Tepper, geologist, is in the live chat today, and we will be back to showcasing his work. So, first major message. Today is broad and almost cartoonish, involving tectonic models and arm waving. But Thursday, the next show, will be a bunch more detail, and I have some ideas about what I want to try to do in the next episode, and I'm not there yet. Why not? Let me try that right now. I was having breakfast half an hour ago, and I was looking, I hadn't looked at this Fred Beckey book since when I first started thinking about the Cascades back in June. I would sit in our mudroom in the sun and have a yellow underlying pen with Bijou in my lap and going through the Fred Beckey book. And I had an idea. And Lindsay Malone is in here, and Gary Paul is in here, I see. And I'm starting to wonder, you guys, if I couldn't take some beautiful photos of classic places, for instance, in the Snoqualmie Pass area. So I was just reading about Mount Daniel because that came up in the last episode. Why couldn't I, or convinced you two guys or some other visual person, why couldn't I take some classic Cascade scenes and use different colored labels? Like Mount Daniel is red, but some of the other peaks in the Snoqualmie Pass area are going to be blue, because they're part of the breakoff belt, and so on. And in the distance is Glacier Peak, and it's purple because it's brand new. So we're heading towards potentially some visual products, and that's one of the things I'm doing today, is I'm drawing some things in a very amateur way, but perhaps the animators out there or the other visually gifted people might be able to take some things that we're establishing starting in this episode, and you might start to spin on it visually, artistically. Okay, one other opening comment, and then we want to just get right into it. You can see what I have planned. It's a lot of different stuff. So even though I formally am introducing the Rollback Magmas to most of you, we're also going to talk about spreading ridges, subducting. We're going to talk about slab windows. We're going to talk about the Yellowstone hotspot. We'll probably talk about near trench magmas a little bit. We'll talk about the Chalice magmas. We'll talk about the Idaho slab curtain. We're going to be all over the place, but the idea is we are thinking broad and big and just getting everything on the table today. And I want to be careful about something and clear about something. If you've been on a geology field trip before, ever, you kind of know the scene. There's a handful of vehicles. There's maybe, 36, 52, 100 geologists all sitting around, standing, looking at this view overlooking this beautiful valley. And the field trip leader says, okay, maybe they even have a megaphone. Okay, attention. Okay, let's get started at this field stop. And they present some stuff. Maybe they have some maps with magnets on the side of the van or something like that. And then quite often, that little presentation in the field morphs into people from the group starting to say their ideas about what they think was going on. And there's an unofficial term called arm waving. And if you've been on a geology field trip, you know exactly what that means. It's literally somebody getting excited in the geology group, whether it's the leader or not, and they're saying, well, they're literally waving their arms. Like, well, there was a big ocean plate coming in here, and then that spreading ridge started to change into a transcompressional scene, and we had core complexes. So that concept of arm waving, I wonder if it started with plate tectonics, by the way. What if you were on a field trip in 1947? Was anybody arm waving? Well, that'd be kind of fun. What would it be like to be on a geology field trip in 1947 versus 1977 versus 2017? Okay, anyway. So the arm waving thing might be tied to tectonic plates, but today is arm waving. And the thing I want to be careful about is that we are open to all ideas. As a young person on geology field trips, I was just bored when someone would start arm waving because it was clearly their idea, and everybody's like waiting for this person to stop talking. Yes, it's usually a man going on and on about his idea. And then the discussion goes to somebody else, and then this guy pipes up again. Let's call him Chuck. Chuck comes up again. But my spreading ridge thing. Before you know it, we're not even talking about Chuck's idea. We're talking about Chuck. And I don't give a fuck about Chuck. I want to talk about the ideas. I don't want to talk about people. So I want us throughout today to be open to all sorts of ideas. And I'm sitting here in my office by myself on a dark, foggy morning in an entire building that's empty, a whole campus that's empty. But I can feel you here. And I'm hoping that the vibe that we have is inclusive and warm, and anybody who wants to type in anything into the live chat will be encouraged and not shouted down. I don't normally have to say that because this group polices itself and we don't need a moderator for this live chat anyway. But the idea is we're exploring all these ideas, and much of the framework for today's discussion is coming from the only video clip part of today's program. And that's more of my chat with Michael Eddy last Monday. And I'm going to show, 3-4 minutes of that chat with Mike. And I've replayed it 4 times, and I love it more each time that I replay it. And I'll paraphrase Mike right now. I said, hey, Mike, we got all these crazy magmas that are triggered by hot mantle coming into Washington during the Eocene. Do you like the slab breakoff idea? Or do you like the slab window idea? And he basically said, I think it's pretty hard to pigeonhole everything into one little model. Let's just embrace all this crazy stuff going on and realize that there's a combination of all of those factors. It doesn't have to be one little model. So even though this is called rollback magma, we're not just talking about rollback mechanisms today. Okay, Daddy's thoroughly wide awake now. Thank you for being here. Approaching 800 live viewers. Let's go to Docky. We're going to use Docky a lot. Docky the document camera. Yeah, you know the schedule. I will see you next Thursday at noon. Today is Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Here we are, the last session in December. I will see you next Thursday, January 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We are still in blue. 20 minutes ago, I decided to redraft this. So Grello, orange, blue, green, red, yellow, purple, that's still the color scheme that we have. We are really losing our mind in a good way with the blue time, and we didn't spend that much time in orange. And we are now into rollback, and before we leave blue, we'll make sure to get into Cascade Volcanic Arc Initiation. Very good. I want to use mostly paper today. So today is different than the last episode. The Tianaway bimodal episode I really enjoyed, but that was scripted essentially. I put all those slides and video clips together, and I wanted you to see the places beautifully, visually, to see the Tianaway, to see some of these rocks. Today is not that. Today is me literally grouping a bunch of papers, some of them new, some of them old, into different chapters. Tepper Trilogy, Idaho miniseries, Meat, and Rollback. And so I'm not only going to be shuffling a bunch of papers, showing you a bunch of papers. In a few cases, I want to draw with you. Okay, another preamble. I'm extra wordy here in the preamble, but for some reason I want to do it. Maybe 15 years into my teaching career, I realized something. That if I was drawing something with my students, that was a special bond, a special connection with the people in the room. And it took me 15 minutes to draw something with the students on a chalkboard, as opposed to just showing them a diagram, and it would take me less than 3. But just the mechanical progress, kind of the drawing and the building of something with everyone in the room, even though I had done it a million times before, slowed me down, and we were doing something together. And so I do want to do that at least once, maybe 2 or 3 times today. Even in the last episode when we did the little coin purse thing and talked about those dikes. We drew that together. It didn't take that long, but I can feel when it works. And that drawing together works. So I'll take the time to draw a little bit with you today. Okay, finally, let's get into it. For goodness sake, let's go. Okay, Tepper trilogy. So, can I be clear? Jeff Tepper, in the live chat, Jeff Tepper, featured already, is in the process of publishing his third and final paper in the Tepper trilogy. I thought I would take a moment to actually write out the 3 different papers, 2 of them published already. So he published in 2023 a Chalice Rollback Magma paper, and that's our featured paper today. Last year, or earlier this year, he talked about an initiation of the Cascade Volcanic Arc paper. That's coming in the next couple of episodes. And the stuff we just did in episodes F, G, and H, that paper hasn't come out yet. But as we've indicated, Jeff has taken 20 years worth of student posters and abstracts. He has the data. He has developed these thoughts by working with these students primarily, but also being on grants with Mike Eddy and Bob Miller and Paul Umhofer and Sam Bowering and others. So the trilogy that I'm starting to call it are these 3 major things. They're all blue. They're all blue. The Tepper trilogy is what we are highlighting here. And I don't know how much we're going to deal with Jeff once we get past blue. Maybe we'll still be dealing with Jeff. I don't know. But this is the wheelhouse for Jeff Tepper, Mr. Eocene himself. Okay, move it, make it quick. And I got to keep my papers organized here. Hang on. I'm going to get buried in papers. So some of this you've seen a million times. So Cascade Volcanic Arc, it starts 46 million years ago. We are not there yet. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. Last time we were talking about the break-off belt magmas. You're sick of this now. We know that the belt is red. The belt is the same pattern as the green Siletzia suture. And last episode, we were spending an entire episode looking at the Teanaway basalt, and we realized more and more that the ages and even the rock types are very similar between all of these break-off belt units. That is, many of them are bimodal, basalts and rhyolites, mafic and felsic lavas, with an arcosic sandstone thrown in for fun. Yes, review, red is the break-off belt, green is the Siletzia suture. Siletzia was built offshore, Siletzia is accreted. The break-off belt is showing up exactly inland of where Siletzia is. If you don't have Siletzia at your coast, you don't have a break-off belt. If you don't have Siletzia off your coast, you don't have a break-off belt. That's going to come up today. Where exactly is Siletzia on the Pacific Northwest coastline, and what's inland? Hint, there's going to be something new also showing up exactly inland of the break-off belt, which means inland of the Siletzia suture, which means inland of Siletzia itself. Yeah, we did this last time, drawing this together. Those dikes will come up again today. Which dikes? The dikes we talked about, which were the result of accreting Siletzia and the coin purse getting formed where we have extension northwest-southeast and we have squeezing northeast-southwest. And there's a bunch of you in the live chat. I saw the replay. A bunch of you in the live chat saying, hey, man, what about rotation? We will comment on it today. Again, still just getting you in the flow. We know now red means break-off belt magmas. I always screw that up. Sometimes I call them break-out. Have you noticed that? Break-off belt magmas and Siletzia suture. Very good. That was the first batch of papers. Pretty painless, pretty fast. Why? Because most of them were old hat to us. Let's move on. I got some new stuff. Idaho miniseries. Okay, now I'm talking to some of you who have showed up for this alphabet on the Cascades. Thank you, but you were not paying attention to this YouTube channel in August and September. Let's take a moment to go to the website, nickzentner.com, you know that if you go and click on the word Cascades, there are papers, scientific papers waiting for you for each of these letters in our alphabet. And today, letter I has the Jeff Tepper Chalice Rollback paper. It looks like this, and so I'm taking highlights from this paper and sharing it with you both today and next time. There's also a Bob Miller, Mike Eddy, and Jeff Tepper, and Paul Umhofer Spreading Ridge Subduction paper, which is very closely related to our topic today. So those two papers are major pieces of research for you. Vic Camp has a Yellowstone hotspot paper. Schmant and Gene Humphreys have two tomography papers that also work together for this episode. But that's not why I wanted to show you this today. I want to go to my YouTube page. Here we are live, going right now. And I don't know if you're aware, but there is an Idaho mini-series playlist. And there are 11 episodes that I did this late summer, August and September. I started in early August, basically asking, was there a volcanic arc in Idaho before Siletzia accreted? And then I started involving other people, Tepper and Gashnig, Sean Wilsey, Gene Humphreys. Some of these were live, some of these were recorded. Basil Tikoff, Spencer Fuston, Jeff Tepper again, Mike Eddy, Karin Siglock, and finally Vic Camp himself. So each of these are 2 hours long, or an hour and a half it looks like. And what I am trying to report on right now, because it plays into what we're doing with this episode, is I'm trying to grab a couple of main things that I learned by doing that Idaho mini-series. And by the way, the Idaho mini-series was dense material. It was difficult. It was more than an hour live with a geologist. And I heard from a number of you during and after that Idaho mini-series, late summer, saying, I just don't know if I'm up for this again this winter, to sit through 2-hour interviews with these geologists talking about this most intense detailed stuff. I don't think I'm that interested. So that feedback got me into this new format where I'm using clips and other things and had tried to have me carry the narratives through. I don't know if it's been working for you or not, but that's the genesis of that. Okay, now that you have the backstory and what the Idaho mini-series is, and you're now realizing that I was talking about and thinking about all these concepts 6 months ago, here's some of the main things I was asking, innocently, without knowing the answer. Before the Cascade Volcanic Arc got established 46 million years ago, so these circles are stratovolcanoes that are active in a line, and we have the Farallon Plate subducting. My innocent question was, if we go back earlier than 53 million years ago, was there a very similar looking volcanic arc in what is today the Idaho batholith and areas in western Montana, and maybe even going down into Nevada? And was it simply a Farallon Plate subducting back then? And the answer was a resounding no. And if you want to know why they said no, you got 11 episodes to watch. There were a lot of different people with a lot of different expertise, and they all said no, there wasn't just a simple volcanic arc in Idaho. Well, that plays into today's concepts, so let's get into it. If the Idaho batholith was not the roots of a former Idaho volcanic arc, then why are these massive magmas in the central Idaho area there? And this was one of the main contributions from Basil Tikoff, who has spent 25 years thinking carefully about the Idaho geology scene and been doing research there. And he and others, Sean Wilsey was on this too, they said, well, you can develop magmas without a volcanic arc. You can have a shallow subducting plate. Spencer Fuston and Jeff Tepper in particular loved the idea of the resurrection plate doing this. This was also Basil saying this. They said it can be like the Himalayas, where you have an uplifted plateau with a bunch of thrust faults, and you've got compression between 85 and 55, but you're generating melts at the base of that over-thickened crust. Okay? Not this. I just thought maybe there would be a simple, if the trench was, before Silesia, if the trench was at Walla Walla, Washington, why couldn't we just have a simple volcanic arc in Idaho? But I got off of that as soon as the experts were talking me off of that ledge. This shows the detail. These are all literally pages from August. The Atlanta lobe is a portion of the Idaho batholith with magmas generated between 83 and 67 million years ago. Then the activity to build the Idaho batholith shifted north between 66 and 53. And then suddenly all that action is stopping. And there's this crazy Eocene signature, at least in the Pacific Northwest. This is our first look at an age progression. More coming on that in just a bit. So this is going back a few alphabets where I was doing the crazy Eocene. And then I was doing Baja, BC. And I kept realizing that there was a compressional scene throughout much of the American West, starting 100 million years ago, Rangeli and friends hitting. This is the western Idaho shear zone. Then I quickly became aware that even in the Idaho batholith time, this is also a squeezing or a compressional story. It's transpression, but that's the idea. But then from the Rocky Mountain people, including my former advisor, Dave Rogers, that was a memorable moment in one of those episodes. I forget the alphabets now. I've been doing a number of these alphabets. Dave Rogers in particular kind of scolded me and said, look, you should know if you don't, young Nick, that 53 million years ago, at least in central Idaho, a switch is flipped and we go from long-standing squeezing to massive amounts of extension. The crust just stretches, it opens, and suddenly we have all of these magmas across the Pacific Northwest, and they're not in a line. I'm leading us to that. The rollback is part of this story. And then, yes, the Cascade Volcanic Arc starts 46 million years ago. So from Reed Lewis, who's a longtime Idaho Geological Survey person, I don't know if you can read this very well, but this is simply just a map of Eocene magmas in Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. The reds are lavas, the orange are lavas and the reds are plutons. So there's these scattering blobs, and I'm going to cartoonishly make it a little bit more exaggerated. How are we doing so far? I haven't drawn anything yet, but the pace is hopefully quick. I do have some slides, but I think the slides are only going to work if you give me a chance to do a bunch of this on paper. I think that I can lay this stuff out in a logical way, but I'm hesitating because there's also a good chance I'm going to get confused today. Jeff Tepper's in the live chat. Jeff, I still don't think I have this figured out. You do, I think, but I still have run into some problems. So that's another benefit to having a second rollback episode. I'm going to be very interested in your comments in the live chat replay whenever that appears. I'm going to be very interested in the comments down below. I'm going to be very interested in the questions that you have and what you're confused by and what you're excited by. The tone is right, right? And I don't know, maybe I'll need to do another Zoom chat with Jeff Tepper before Thursday for us to address some of these things. So this is kind of a work in progress, I must say, for me. We haven't gotten there yet, but I'm trying to build the suspense to what we might be doing. Probably doing too much of it. Let's go. Okay, so now we're on to the meat. Good Lord, what does that mean? Well, again, I literally found all these old boxes from a few years ago and started, oh yeah, I forgot I did that and that and that. So this is one of the themes we had for a whole winter, the crazy Eocene. And Silesia hits, and then we have all of these fireworks happening in the direct aftermath of the Silesia accretion. We're just looking at the magmas. But if we wanted to devote a whole alphabet to this, which we don't, we've already done it, we would have episodes on each of these rather dramatic phenomena that are happening in the Pacific Northwest. Silesia is the firework. And then a few seconds later, remember that? We're looking at these. And it's these magmas, a portion of these magmas, that are exhibiting this rollback phenomenon. Okay. It's drawing time. So even though the progress and the pace is going to drop, I hope you can now see why I'm doing this. I want to draw something with you. Let's do it. Okay. Well, what do we know? We know that's the break-off belt magmas. And we know those were active between 51 and 48. Are they linear? Yes. Those magmas are in a well-developed line. And why are they in such a well-developed line? We know that. They're in a beautiful line, those magmas of the break-off belt, because we're inland of the suture the Silesia suture. And we know that that accretion started 51 million years ago, but to be honest, it went to about 49 million years ago. So there's kind of a one-to-one correlation between when we're really parking this ferry at the dock and where we're breaking the Farallon plate down below. And you're like, you broke the Farallon plate down below? What? Oh, come on, man. We just did 3 episodes on that. Where you been? You got to watch these in order. I'm not scolding you, but thank you for watching this one, but I have to assume that you've been introduced to some of these concepts ahead of time. Okay. So the colors and the concepts are on display. It's not heading down into California, both of these lines. These lines are not heading up much into British Columbia. Okay? Good. Do we have magmas? Do we have magmas further east? Yes, we do. Are they linear? No, they are not. And that's a vote against a volcanic arc. If you're a volcanic arc, that's a line. That's a line of volcanoes built directly above a subducting plate, a volcanic arc. We don't have that. So what do the magmas east of the red and green line look like? I'm arm waving. I'm not being careful. I'm cartoonishly drawing. I'm cartoonishly drawing, and that's the point. Where are we going? We're going to some tectonic models. We're arm waving about some ideas, plate tectonically, for why that crazy circus of blue circles are happening. And Mike Eddy and others say, we know some things about those magmas. We're not totally guessing about those magmas. But to shoehorn all those magmas into one very specific plate tectonic model is a fool's errand. So you've got the tone, you've got the framing of this meeting today, I hope. Okay, so do we know any detail? Well, first of all, let's name these things. So these are the chalice magmas. And they were active roughly between 53 and 46 million years ago. Wrong color. But the chalice magmas are tied to crustal extension. Do you remember what Jeff Tepper said in his essay in the last episode? Bimodal volcanism is tied to thinning of the crust and extension of the crust. And I'm not saying that everything that's blue here is bimodal, but I am saying that everything here is from a relaxation of the crust. In other words, we did not have, the colors are just exactly wrong. We did not have chalice magmas here or here because we were squeezing the crust. When we were squeezing the crust, we were making magmas, but they were in a completely different plate tectonic stress regime. This is different. Flip the switch 53 million years ago, and suddenly we have a rash, a breakout of chalice magmas. Are they linear? No. Is there an age pattern? Is there an age pattern? Is there an age pattern to the chalice magmas? Yes, in a portion of the chalice magmas that have been studied carefully by who? You guessed it, Jeff Tepper and his students at the University of Puget Sound. Let's do it. Slightly different color here. Starting in northern Idaho and ending in central Washington is a 52 to 46 million year age sweep. 52 to 46, kind of the entire duration of this entire breakout of magmas, at least from northern Idaho down to central Washington, there is a sweep. And before we lose it today, those are rollback magmas. Jeff Tepper and others before him, Gene Humphreys, had a plate tectonic rollback model where you have a piece of ocean plate that's subducted underneath the Pacific Northwest, and then the thing starts to roll back. It starts to droop. In other words, you break the plate and then you roll it back. That's ultimately where we are headed today, rollback magmas. So part of what I was doing in the Idaho mini-series was like, hey, you know Montana magmas, you know Alberta magmas, you know Wyoming magmas, Idaho magmas. Can't we have this rollback go even from like earlier to here? And the answers were inconclusive. Like, maybe, but the dates we have don't quite work with that. So I'm not going there. Again, the Idaho mini-series was a fun investigation for me, and I think it was helpful to many, but it ended up just showing what we don't know as much as what we do know. So what we do know is this age pattern in eastern Washington, let's just call it. And look when it ends. It ends right at the birth of the Cascade Volcanic Arc. Okay? Still doing okay? Now, you're like, I don't see where this is going. Well, we're going to look at some models to explain these magmas. But before we leave this thing that we just drew together, I think I want to put one more thing in that might get you sufficiently jazzed up. Ready? Brown. Is there something else that we can put on this map that is somehow looking like these two lines? We know what our green line is. We know what our red line is. I should add it in black, I guess. So Silesia is here. Right? We know that the northern and southern limit of Silesia is offshore. Yeah, I should color that. I should color that. Okay. Is there something else that has kind of a Silesia look even further inland? And the answer is yes. Yes. Brown. So if this is working correctly, you're like, what's that? That's got to be an important part of the story. You got two brown railroad tracks that are dashed for some reason, but they have the same north-south length as our other two guys, which are that length because of Silesia? And the answer is yes. And you're like, what is that thing? That's something known as the Idaho Slab Curtain, which was discovered 20 years ago by Gene Humphreys at the University of Oregon, a geophysicist. And it's cartoon time. Here's my attempt to show what it looks like in the subsurface. It's a vertical slab of ocean plate. So this is the map view looking down from heaven. This is the cross-sectional view, the underground version. And what does this Idaho Slab Curtain have to do with our Silesia story that we have so carefully built before? So when I was talking to Jeff Tepper a couple weeks back, and I'm like, I'm going to get into your papers. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it. Like, we got the break-off belt, we got the rollback, we've got the initiation. Like, I don't know which I should start with, rollback or break-off belt. And he had some ideas back and forth. And then it was my call to eventually go break-off belt. I want to start with the break-off belt because it's the most natural continuation. It's the most natural continuation of what we had just been talking about with the Silesia accretion. Like, we knew that suture. Remember Megan Anderson and the geophysical stuff that was there. So just to bring in this break-off belt and have it mirror that seemed to work for me. But the vote against going right to the break-off belt and not going to the rollback and the slab curtain is the timing. The rollback, which we're about to get to, is starting 52 million years ago. It's not starting when the break-off belt starts. The break-off belt is slightly younger. I mean, it's all in the same ballpark. But anyway, so we are talking about this rollback, which is somehow tied to this Idaho slab curtain. Okay, so that's essentially the data. We have this home base sketch that's our data cartoon. And this is our goal then, is to try to say, well, why the swarm of chalice magmas, we know its extension, and why this, I'm going to get it brown, and why this piece of an oceanic plate that is now hanging underneath Idaho, the Idaho slab curtain. Okay, so we have data on the surface, we have data in the subsurface. What do we do? Okay, you ready for the kitchen sink? It's going to go fast. This is the arm waving part. And we could have all of these factoring in to the reality of why all this stuff happened. between 53 million years ago and the birth of the Cascades 46 million years ago. Let's go. Okay, here's the first idea. The first idea is we have all of these chalice magmas because we have a subducting, spreading ridge. So this is Washington. Oh, this is the Pacific Northwest, and this is the Pacific Ocean. I'm not even bothering to name the plates yet. That'll be next time. And don't get hung up on the geometry here. I'm just making it as simple as we can possibly do it. Okay? So this is a subduction zone. Oh, this is just the coast. Okay, so this is a continent. This is an ocean during this time between 52 and 44 million years ago. And what if we have an obvious spreading ridge that's making two oceanic plates in opposite directions? Again, please don't be bothered by the geometry. But in the most simplest case, what if we subduct not only the ocean plates, but we subduct the actual boundary between the ocean plates? And the concept is you then develop something called a slab window because you don't have ocean slab underneath. Like if you subduct a gap, then you're going to have a gap here. And if you subduct an ocean plate here, that ocean plate on the floor of the ocean will convert into what we call a slab, which is a piece of ocean floor going down underneath the continent. Same thing here, underneath the continent. And presumably this slab window gets wider and wider as you get away from the trench. And that's one way to explain why you have a bunch of magmas. Why? I'll give it to you verbally. If we don't have a slab underneath the continent, then we go right back to what Jeff Tepper and Mike Eddy have been talking about recently. If you don't have an ocean slab underneath your crust, hot mantle can come right up to the base of the crust and start triggering new melts in the crust because it's triggered by this hot mantle. We're just blasting the base of the crust with hot mantle. And that ultimately is the explanation for any of these chalice magmas. Remember, it's an extensional time. This is a spreading ridge, so it's an extensional time. We need these blue dots to be an extensional time. And so for many years, including Michael Eddy and Jeff Tepper, the assumption was, let's do some detailed work on these magmas to confirm that this is a very simple slab window from a spreading ridge subducting at this time in the Eocene. That's idea one. Idea two is another end member, where you say, what if we just ignore the spreading ridge Most everyone agrees that in the neighborhood at this time was a very large mantle plume known as the Yellowstone hotspot. And let's have the thing fixed. Let's have it stationary. And let's have North America inch closer and closer to that mantle plume. And if we do that and suddenly have this Yellowstone hotspot then suddenly be underneath the continent, maybe you can simply say all these chalice magmas are from North America going over the top of a big glowing hotspot. And you can have extension to create that scenario. What's a third option? A combo platter. You know what we're doing. We're trying to come up with as many different creative solutions to potentially arm wave and explain why those chalice magmas are located there. So the combo platter is like, well, I think if you've been paying attention, to some of our shows prior in the alphabet, you know that many that are thinking about this carefully, they prefer a model with a spreading ridge and a mantle plume together out in the water. And that this half, it becomes Silesia and this half becomes the Yakutat. But this is a large oceanic plateau, a large igneous province, centered beautifully on this spreading ridge, and then the spreading ridge is going right underneath. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, I've been thinking about that the whole time. Why haven't you guys talked about that immediately? Isn't that just a perfect way to explain that? And then if North America goes over the top, it collides with the large igneous province and the spreading ridges underneath, and voila, you've got these guys and you've got the large igneous province. What's the problem with that? I think there are a couple problems with that approach, but we're not to that yet. Is there another tectonic model out there to explain the data? And most specifically, to explain this data right here, 52 to 46. 52 to 46, I don't see how 52 to 46 is going to work here. I'm not sure I can see easily how 52 to 46 is going to work here. I'm not sure I can see easily how 52 to 46 is going to work here. Like if you just love this idea here, wouldn't you expect that the youngest lavas would be in the middle of the slab window? And wouldn't you expect that the lavas would get older and older and older as you go away? Let's draw that. If this is true, are you following my logic now? If you have a spreading ridge that's making brand new lava here and it's getting older and older on both sides, so it's youngest in the middle, and then the lava gets older and older in opposite directions, Y and O for young and old, young and old. So wouldn't you expect this kind of a pattern in a slab window if the main reason for the slab window was active spreading that continued underneath the continent? And yet that's exactly the opposite of what we have here. We don't have 52 to 44 to 52 again. We've got 52 to 46 going this way. And what I'm just describing, hopefully accurately because Jeff Tepper's in the live chat right now, that was his history with his work in the last 20 years. 15 years ago, he and his students were assuming that the slab window was from the spreading ridge subduction primarily. And so he started visiting all these Eocene magmas, these plutons and lavas in eastern Washington, to get some age and chemistry results on each of these magmas to confirm that this is the story. And he ended up finding a completely wrong age progression. And it's that completely wrong age progression that was the beginning of thinking about a new tectonic model. Now, does that mean a new tectonic model means we have to totally abandon this? No, that's the ultimate point with Mike Eddy coming in just a second with that recorded Zoom interview. But before we go to Mike, let's get to the rollback. No, we're going to do it now. I think the sense is we should do it right now. I really enjoy this. I hope you will too. This is the right place to put in this conversation with Mike. I'll let it play, and I'll catch my breath as well. Thank you. We have more than 900 now watching live. I really appreciate you being here. Oh, this is great. Thank you. How about two more things? Let's go back to the bimodal nature of the Teanaway Formation. What does that bimodal signature tell you about the crust, about the tectonic forces? It seems to come out of the blue. There wasn't bimodal stuff in the previous 10 years. In fact, it doesn't seem like there were magmas much at all in the 50s. So what regionally does that Teanaway Formation and the rest of the breakoff magmas tell you, besides potentially Jeff Tepper's story of the accretion of Siletzia and the breaking of the plate down below?
Yeah, so the standard answer, I think, for bimodal volcanism is that you have a lot of mantle-derived melts to basalt entering the crust. And so they enter the crust, they can heat it up. It's very efficient to basically advect heat from the mantle into the crust that way. And they can start to melt the crust a little bit. And so when you just start to melt the crust a little bit, you're going to generate high silica magmas, um, almost always over 70 weight percent silica, so rhyolites. And so if you're melting the crust a little bit and you have mafic magmas transiting it, you end up with these sequences that are um, a mixture of basalt and rhyolite. Um, and so that's sort of the standard answer um, for bimodal volcanism. Uh, I I haven't done this. Jeff may have, but I would want to see some geochemistry from the rhyolites because melted crust usually has a pretty distinct geochemistry. Um, if you're melting sediment, it's usually very, very enriched in aluminum to the point where those melts can start to crystallize things like garnet as an igneous mineral. But uh, but that's sort of the standard answer for why that happens. So you need a situation where you're generating lots of basalt that is entering the crust. It's basically all you need for that sequence. It's usually found in like rifts. Rifts are a great place. Large igneous provinces are a place where you usually see bimodal volcanism. Anywhere where you're producing a lot of basalt.
So to you, all of these bimodal units that used to be together in central Washington, are they more of a signature of ridge subduction to you or break off of the Farallon plate due to the collision of Siletzia or both?
Well, it's really hard, I think, to pull apart a specific cause. I tried to
Yeah,
sketch how I thought this all looked in the Miller paper about ridge trench interaction a couple of years
yeah,
ago.
right.
And so the way I envision it is you have a triple junction. So you have a slab window, which is a place where you're going to generate some basalts. And then with Jeff's work, it looks like you probably broke apart or broke one of the plates off and maybe it rolled back. And so you have this simultaneous, you're at the edge of the slab and it's breaking and foundering.
Yeah.
And so you have all these places where a stenospheric mantle can upwell. And so to attribute it to break off or to attribute it to a slab window, or if the Yellowstone plume was around, I mean, there are all these things that could
Yeah,
do it.
right.
I
Uh,
gave a talk about this maybe 5 years ago
uh-huh.
at Stanford, and Marty Grove I was telling him, well, it seems like such a unique situation. And he said, well, it's sort of an end member is all the dials are set up to 11 to pump as much basalt into to make as much mafic magma as basaltic melts as possible in this little area for a short period of time. And so this might be a really unique situation where you're just blasting the crust with basalt for a brief period.
Because potentially all three things, the mantle plumes nearby, the spreading ridge is subducting, and you're breaking a plate due to the impact of the large igneous province. Is that the point?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Any one of those things would lead to
Yeah.
some basaltic magmatism. But if you sort of, the North Cascades are sitting right at the junction of all three of these things at that point in time.
Very fun. Okay, I want to do one more thing. So yes, that's Mike Eddy from the Dream Team and the North Cascades Project. And I just love that little section. And I think it frames it beautifully for what we're trying to do today. I hope you can see that. Okay, I hope you know where we are. I'm about to show you what the rollback idea is. And then I don't know how much further we're going to go today. We might save some of this for next time. Or I might just take your live question and answer and use some more of the sketches that I have. I don't know. We'll see. But we have to get to the rollback. Let's go. So we're back to this. We're trying to explain all these guys. Is it slab window? Is it Yellowstone mantle plume? It's not just breakoff. Breakoff is just confined to this red line. But these guys, is there another potential story? Jeff Tepper says, I have an idea, a tectonic model to explain this old to young pattern, at least in this portion of the Chalice magmas. And I did this morning with Bijou, just an enlarged map of eastern Washington, Ellensburg, John Stockton's house in Spokane, northern Idaho, 52 to 46, an age sweep. And again, that's just a portion of this incredible field that goes way up into BC as well. I'm just talking about this portion as well as Jeff. Here we go. We'll see if you like this. If we're doing this on a map, let's do this in cross-section. So here's where we need an animation, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be a fancy animation. Are you gifted in animating things? It can be like a fucking Davy and Goliath kind of stop action, whatever. I don't know. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be Walt Disney 1935 with the first Mickey Mouse. I don't know. Can you do that? Can somebody do that? Here's what I think would be really helpful for my downtown lectures in April, but maybe for Jeff's use in future talks that he's giving. So I'm going to use my hand. So why would we have hot mantle triggered melts coming up here, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, and heading towards my backyard 46 million years ago? Hot mantle's down here. My right hand is going to be hot mantle, right? This stuff wants to get to the surface. It cannot. There's thick insulation, and quite often there's an ocean plate. In this case, there's an ocean plate, the Farallon plate, that has already subducted at a shallow angle underneath Washington and Idaho. The hot mantle cannot get up to the surface. It cannot trigger the bimodal volcanism. Remember, Mike Eddy's saying we're just blasting the crust with mantle. Well, normally you can't blast the crust with mantle. There's a bunch of barriers. But the rollback idea says, what if you break this plate further east, and if you break the plate over here, 52 million years ago, hot mantle can come up to John Stockton's vacation home. I know too much. But then if this plate starts to droop, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, and then finally 46. This is a way to explain a migration of chalice magmas in a linear pattern. What's the pattern? This. Try it again. It can't get to the surface, but if we break the plate, we can run to daylight. Jerry Kramer. And this is the rollback of the Farallon plate. It's creating more and more space for this hot mantle to come to the surface. Cramping up now. That's one element of the rollback model. But there's another element that, in my mind, is slightly different. This is where Jeff and some of you can correct me. There's also a tie with this to the breakoff belt. Again, I did this morning with Bijou at like 3:30 in the morning. My eyes popped open at 3. See if you like this one. What do we know is happening roughly 49 million years ago? The Teanaway bimodal story, right? The breakoff belt magmas and our Teanaway rhyolite from the last episode are happening just north of Ellensburg. There's the Silesia suture. There's the breakoff belt inland. We know that's a break. That's the break we're familiar with. And so to me, I may be off now, but to me, if we paint both edges of this breakoff belt break, which starts 51 and goes till 49, or even 48, I guess. But this is this, and this is this. So I'm slowing down because I'm not sure I've got it, but I think I have it. I think that this thing is broken twice. It's broken earlier in Montana. It's broken a second time under Ellensburg, and this thing is the thing that's going to roll back. This is like a little mini rollback now. I should put it in. 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, 46. So there's that, which I just tried to demonstrate here. But this is eventually going to get vertical. And at the same time, the Pacific Northwest is continuing to motor to the west. And so today, the vertical slab curtain the Idaho slab curtain is under Idaho, but I don't think it was originally. Jeff Tepper, uppercase yes, exclamation point. That makes me feel good. Thank you. So you can see, I've been so regimented and like, we're not starting the Cascades. We're not initiating the Cascades until a week from this morning. Well, frick, we're doing it right now, basically. This is why we're starting the Cascade Volcanic Arc. This thing that was broken, a little stub, continues to subduct until it gets deep enough to start the frickin' arc. So this can be improved, but I didn't sleep well last night because I still didn't really get how this stuff worked with this and also with our breakoff belt. But I'm starting to see it. Okay, I was building towards this moment right here. And it's not the first time I've thought about it. Like this in the Idaho mini-series, we had break number 1 60 million years ago in Montana. Nobody seems to be able to explain that or even find the magmas that show that. But our second break is clearly what we're doing. And then we'll finish here, I think. If you're like, I don't know, like it's all down there. You can't see it. Like, seems pretty convenient that you've got this whole story, but, we can't take an elevator down there and double check. Well, I don't know. Gene Humphreys was the first guy, University of Oregon, to find that Idaho slab curtain. And then University of Houston, Spencer Fuston, PhD student, working with Johnny Wu, who's now at Arizona, independent of Gene Humphreys, they found this. This is Spencer Fuston. And look at the size of the slab curtain. This. It's the same size as Silesia. And that bite-sized chunk taken out of a much larger Farallon plate perfectly works with our story. Why is there a big chunk out of this? It's this. It's this. So when you look at a cross-section like this, you're like, oh my God, that happened from Alaska down to Mexico? No, it's just happening in the Pacific Northwest. Why? Because that's the stuff that's inland of Silesia. So this little segmented story, which we've been following now to Montana, also shows up on a much more regional story in work by Spencer Fuston. So this is a callback to what I was being kind of coy about a week ago plus. I hope you can now see that this and this is also bracketing our Idaho slab curtain. And so the rollback, the Idaho slab curtain, it's all tied to this Silesia accretion story, which is setting up the Cascade Volcanic Arc. I think I want to do 2 more things, and then we're going to open it up to live Q&A. This is the poster session in Portland in 2019 that first got me introduced to this story, with Jeff Tepper and Ken Clark standing at their poster. And here is the break. This is the breakout belt magmas. And here's that broken off thing that is going to become the Idaho slab. And we're ignoring a northward creep of the Farallon plate. That's too much for my brain to handle right now. This feels like a natural end, but I want to do one thing, because I was kind of strong saying I don't think the Yellowstone mantle plume is a major player. I'm open to it. But one of the papers at the website today is written by Vic Camp. And let me show you his map about the path of the Yellowstone mantle plume underneath the Pacific Northwest. New-ish paper, Vic Camp and Ray Wells, a case for a long-lived and robust Yellowstone hotspot. You have this at the website. These guys have spent a lot of time thinking about Oregon geology. And in the case of Vic Camp, mapping carefully in southeastern Oregon and southwestern Idaho. Both of these guys, who are really the experts on this, they place the Yellowstone hotspot off the coast of Northern California. And they have North America drifting over the mantle plume, and they have North America starting to cross the mantle plume at like 38 million years ago, evidenced by the Tillamook lavas. And you're like, why are you adding this to the show today? Well, we're overriding the Yellowstone hotspot way down here. And since this time, there has been substantial rotation of this crust into Washington, quote unquote. So 5 minutes before we started this morning, I had the inspiration to try this. This is how we'll quit. Oh boy, can I find it? Hang on, Patrick. Patrick doesn't watch these anymore. That's okay. I'm happy. Patrick has a life now. Hopefully he has friends and he has all sorts of exciting things happening in his life. Oh yeah, I was going to draw it with you. Let's do it. So if we listen to the experts on the Yellowstone mantle plume, and we eventually get the Yellowstone mantle plume to where it belongs in Wyoming. And I'm just going to do a number like 40. 40, 30, 20, 10, 0. Ray Wells in particular has been spending a whole career documenting the clockwise rotation of the crust in the Pacific Northwest. And so where is Siletzia today? Siletzia today is here. But I think you are understanding what I'm trying to say. Much of our story here was originally down here, and it's been moved out of the path of the Yellowstone hotspot, and yet the Yellowstone hotspot hasn't been moved up here. So I don't think I can find it easily. But the idea that you simply have a Yellowstone hotspot offshore and you have a spreading ridge and then you have North America cross over the top of it like east-west, for me, I'm less enthusiastic about that, because if you place the Yellowstone mantle plume down here and you rotate everything away from it, then you're basically taking the Yellowstone mantle plume out of the neighborhood. At least that's the way I'm viewing it right now. Maybe that worked. Maybe that worked. It's time for some live Q&A. 15 minutes of it. And I will pay particular attention to the replay, and especially if you have a comment that you feel like is extremely helpful or something that we might follow up on in the next episode, please put a comment down below. I'm mainly talking to people who watch this in replay. But I'd be happy to follow through on all sorts of ideas that I'm sure you have new takes on this sort of thing. Let's just try a few. Cindy, combination of effects. North America pushing exotic terrains into Siletzia, causing breakoff belt with spreading ridge. Pushing exotic terrains into Siletzia, causing breakoff belt with spreading ridge. Yeah, well, you want to do it? You want to do it? Okay, hang on. Okay, Cindy, you want to do it? I'm pretty sure I have this right. Jeff Tepper likes the spreading ridge here. and there are near trench magmas on Vancouver Island from roughly 50 million years ago. And so he likes the northern edge of Silesia being the spreading ridge. And he likes this. I shouldn't talk for you, Jeff. You can talk for yourself. Gene Humphreys has a tear in the Farallon plate down here, according to his tomography results. And then Jeff likes this as a northern boundary. Now that I say that, I'm not sure I have that right. I think he does. I think Jeff wants a slab window right up here. You can speak for yourself, Jeff. Thank you, Cindy. Back to others. Let's go rapid fire. William, so the slab curtain would also appear to be moving to the north over time, similar to the Yellowstone hotspot? Yes, I think so, the way that I'm viewing it. So the slab breaks Teanaway east of Silesia, and then the Farallon Juan de Fuca moves north under Silesia? Farallon Juan de Fuca moves north under Silesia. Yes, that's foreshadowing to the birth of the Cascades. So there's an element which I don't have yet in my mind where the Farallon is creeping northward during this time. Jerome, after rollback breakoff, what prevents the magma from continuing to reach the surface across the entire area of breakoff? Okay, that's the part I didn't talk about. Let's go to the slides. Thank you. I'll do some of this next time. But I think Jerome is asking about this. Why wouldn't the breakoff belt get wider and wider? And I think Jeff Tepper is saying that. I'm going through all this stuff. We'll use it next time. So here's Jeff making some figures just a couple weeks ago. And red is the breakoff belt. So wait a minute. Are you using the same colors that I am? Or did I use your colors, Jeff? This can't be a coincidence. That's cool. Breakoff is here. Breakoff is here. Breakoff magmas are here, and here, and here. Again, I'm not looking at this quite yet. I'm just looking at the width of the breakoff belt. So if I play with this, Jeff has used in one of his talks a garage door. The garage door is going down. It's an automatic garage door. It's recoiled up in the ceiling of the garage right now. But if you hit the button, the garage door is going to go down, and we're going to open a gap. We're going to open a skylight and allow more and more mantle to come to the surface. Here's my confusion late last night before my eyes closed. Wouldn't that make the opposite age progression? I've kind of backed away from the garage door today because why wouldn't this be like 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, like going the wrong way? Isn't that a youngin going west to east? What am I missing there? Emmy, has this series impressed you that the Eocene is even crazier? Yes, thank you. Jim, is the slab curtain stationary within the mantle, separate from lithospheric movements? Apparently. So if we got Basil Tikoff back on, I'm going to have a hard time finding any papers now. Basil was rather bold in saying, I don't even think the Idaho slab curtain is a slab of ocean crust. I think it's continental crust. And the tomographers are like, that's ridiculous. But it is odd. I think everyone agrees it's odd that slab curtain is just hanging there. Aren't these things supposed to sink? God, I really need some of this. Isn't that the whole point of tomography, whether it's Karn-Siglock or Spencer Fusion or whatever? Once you break these slabs, they're supposed to sink. And this thing is just not sinking? Weird. Eric, slab breakoff happened further east than previously thought. Jeff can comment. And again, Jeff, I don't know. You've already given me so much time. You've given us so much time. Maybe we do another recorded Zoom thing sometime Tuesday or Wednesday or something. I don't know. Maybe even Monday if you have time. If there are a bunch of things here that you feel like can be addressed that I'm not addressing right now, and you could just give me a little bit of direction on how to deal with all this interest on Thursday. We have 950 live viewers. We'll do a few more before we quit. Couldn't a period of westward, so oh boy. Bob A. Hildebrand, couldn't a period of westward subduction during the accretion of intermontane and insular with subsequent break of North American slab explain Idaho slab? Lack of east volcanic arc, earlier tear to mantle. Possibly, Bob. I'll be open to your idea. I can't follow it that quickly. Thank you for the contribution. I'm scrolling back. Glenn, could faults like the Trans-Challis fault zone also explain the northeast to southwest progression as they shifted regionally? Trans-Challis fault zone. I don't remember what that is, Glenn. It's got to be tied to extension, though, right? I'm just reading questions now when I don't have much to say. Dan, why did Mike Eddy say that magma at 75% silica were mafic? I don't think he said that. Isn't that the classic definition? It is. You either misheard him, or it's possible he said it incorrectly, but I don't think he said that. Thank you, though, for listening carefully. Alan, does the existence of an ophiolite on the surface imply a corresponding break in the subducted crust? Do the ages of exposed ophiolites correlate with dates of any slab windows? Thank you, Alan. It's tricky. Remember the time frame we're talking about right now. Everything going on today. Spreading ridge, mantle plume, rollback. I haven't even talked about it, but Straight Creek Fault kicking off. Bimodal volcanism, near trench magmas, which I haven't touched on today. It's all during Challis time, which is 53 to 46. So I think you know, Alan, the ophiolites are hundreds of millions of years old. And anytime I see something about much older exotic terrains or whatever, I don't naturally get excited because it seems like so much older than our current story that it's a harder thing for me to try to figure out how to weave it in. You may be onto something, but I can't see it. Explaining my own mental problems sometimes when reading these questions. Did the rising mantle material slow down the slab sinking rate? Might this have caused the rollback to be faster towards the middle of the break? It possibly. I mean, that's always tricky. You have something like, here's an Idaho slab curtain. It's a broken piece of the Farallon plate. It's vertical and it's not sinking. And I always get stuck with something like that, like the most basic laws of every ocean slab in the world is sinking. Well, why is this not sinking? And then people go, well, there's not as much eclogite and there's not, and the density currents. I don't know. It just seems like you're working awful hard to explain something that doesn't seem to be the most obvious thing. But I'm trying to be open. 3 more, then I got to get home. Patrick, did the rollback start in the north or south side of Silesia? Could the perpendicular orientation of the basin range extension on both sides of the Snake River plain be used to show that rollback started? I guess it started on the north side of Silesia. At least that's the transect that Jeff Tepper chose. And the southern edge of Silesia is buried by a bunch of young lavas, so we're just faced with the problem with exposure. Thank you. I appreciate all of these questions, and you know that most of them are not going to be answered easily by me and maybe even by others. Go down to live, we got 2 more. I'm having too much fun. Mike, is it really vertical? As far as I can tell, there's a kink in it at the Orofino bend, but I just chose to take that out. Mr. Tony, how much is the Yellowstone hotspot part of the Rollback Magmas story? It could be a major part of it, Mr. Tony. But as I tried to show with those last couple of maps, I just really wonder, to me, if we reconstruct this from the Vic Camp paper, and so much of the stuff up here we're trying to explain with this, just seems like it's much further out of the neighborhood than normal. Okay, a toast to you. It's approaching 9:30 on a Saturday morning, December 28th, 2024. Thank you for watching this episode. A special thanks to 927 of you who are still with us live. I really appreciate you being here live. It means a lot to me and probably means a lot to everyone else in the live room. Thank you for being here. And again, I repeat myself, but in this case, I have to because I just want to make sure the message is clear. To have 10,000 of you watching each of these episodes in the middle of winter is especially meaningful. When I really sit down and think about it every once in a while, I'm like, God dang, 10,000 people are keeping up with the series. You gotta love it. Very good. Scheduling note, and then we are done. I'm going to take a couple of days and do nothing but hang out with family. But come Monday or Tuesday, I'll be back at it, which I enjoy. And we will continue with the Tepper trilogy, the second and final installment on Rollback, which will probably also just start kind of creeping in towards the initiation of the Cascade Volcanic Arc. And when am I going to see you next? On Thursday, January 2nd at high noon Pacific time. Happy New Year, everybody. Goodbye to 2024. Well, that was cool. I got balloons and welcome 2025. May it be a healthy year for all of us. Thank you. I love you, and we'll see you on Thursday for more Rollback Magmas. Goodbye.